Okay. So, after a great weekend, we're again back to our learning, right? Okay, so today's session is all about crafting the perfect career story. Now, what comes to your mind when we talk about crafting the perfect career story? Interviews, right? That's where we use it, right? True? Okay. Now, I want you all to imagine this scenario where you are sitting in an interview, confident, calm, knowing you are about to deliver a career story that's going to leave the interviewer thinking, this is exactly who we need. Yeah? This is exactly the person who we need for this role. So today, that's what we are going to create together. Curious? Excited? Superb. Superb. Now, before we start building our story, okay, that's sure gonna happen now in some time. You're going to understand how to structure that. I want you to start seeing your past experiences as your stepping stones that leads you to some big opportunity. Together, we will use one super impressive framework that will help you craft your story that not just highlights your strengths, but also aligns it with the role that you are aiming for. Okay. And by doing so, you'll ensure that your story resonates with the interviewer. Yeah. So shall we begin? So step one is identifying your strengths. Now, think of yourself as a chef. Chef, everyone understands a chef, right? Okay. Think of yourself as a chef preparing a exotic or a signature dish. Okay. Like a perfect biryani, for example. You have access to a pantry full of ingredients, a variety of spices, a variety of ingredients. But do you throw everything into that pot of biryani? Everything that's available in that room, do you put everything? Yes or no? No, right? You carefully select the most important ones which is required to prepare that biryani, like the basmati rice, saffron, perfectly marinated veggies, the blend of right spices, right? Now everyone's waiting for dinner time, I guess, right? Your mouth is watering. Okay. So to make that biryani flavorful and to make that biryani, tasty, you add the right ingredients. You don't add everything that's available in your kitchen. Correct? Similarly, in an interview, your skills, your experiences are those ingredients. You have many, right? You have many because you've worked for like 10, 15, 20 years Even if it's 5 years, you have plenty of skills and experience that you've gathered. But not all of them are relevant for the role you are applying for. Right? When I'm saying not relevant, you cannot list down everything while you're talking to the interviewer. Correct? So what you need to do is, you need to focus on 2 to 3 key strengths that are most important for that role, your strongest ones. These are the strengths that will elevate your dish, your professional story, and leave a lasting taste in the interviewer's mind. Yes? So what is that? Step 1 is nothing but identifying your strengths. Okay? Reflect on your career. Now, what does that mean? Reflect on your career. You make a list of so many skills in your resumes, right? You think of the skills or your strengths that help you succeed. What are you great at? Now, when I say focus on top 2 to 3 skills or top 2 to 3 strengths that help you succeed. Example, if you worked in tech, you might be known for problem solving skills, right? You're able to quickly diagnose the issues. You're able to provide the solutions under some tight deadlines. Or you may have managed teams. That highlights your leadership and ability to guide the teams through some transitions, right? Let's say, example, you are interviewing for a project management role. Okay. The 3 key strengths might be, as I said, one could be problem solver, right? You have the knack of navigating complex project challenges, right? Where they have those budget constraints, resource shortages, and those last minute changes, right? Second key strength could be, you are a communicative leader. You have strong communication skills that ensures that you communicate with all the stakeholders, keeping them informed, keeping them aligned, right, throughout the project life cycle. Or it could be adaptability. You're able to lead diverse cross-functional teams through the various dynamics of projects, requirements, and meeting those tight deadlines, right? So these could be some of your strengths, whereas you would have mentioned more than this, right? Example, if you apply for a data analyst role, one key strength could be, you could be an analytical thinker, right? You need to be great in analytics, right? You are detail oriented. You are a proactive problem solver, for instance, right? So you need to highlight, you need to identify your top 3 strengths. Now, once you identify your top 3 strengths, that's what I meant by reflecting on your career, your past successes. The next step is review the job description. Reviewing your job description is paying attention to what the company is looking for that particular role, in that particular candidate. What skills and qualifications have they highlighted? Have they emphasized on? Same example, a project management role. The job description might highlight leadership, stakeholder management, or it could be problem solving, right? These should be the focus when you consider the job description. If in case you are looking for the marketing role, and if the job description talks about they're looking for a person who is good in creativity, who is good in campaign management experience, you must exactly focus your story on these strengths. Where you came up with these creative strategies, where you led, measurable results while you are handling that campaign. Step 3 is finding the sweet spot. Now, what does that mean? When you know your strengths and when you have looked up to the job description, right, you look for the sweet spot where your strengths meet your job requirements. You are combining these two things. You are aligning with what they are looking for and what you have. You are, your key strengths are something else, but the job description is talking about something else. How do you match those two things? Not possible, right? So only when you match these two things is when you find that you are aligning. And that's how you step into the next thing, is crafting your story, right? You can probably, say that if they are looking for someone who's experienced in team leadership, right? Your strength is again the same, right? When I say leadership, or you probably have led a team, right? While managing your project, you can exactly say the same thing, that you have led teams to, probably exceed their KPIs, right? That's how you highlight your strength with their requirement. If the job requires cross-functional collaboration, you can say you have worked across departments to implement new processes, right? You will showcase exactly the same thing what they are looking for in the job description. If you are talking about A and if they are looking for D, it'll never going to match. Right? Now that you have identified your key strengths, right? You have run past through the job description. It's time to support those strengths with impactful stories. How do you demonstrate? You've identified your strengths. You know what the job description is talking about, right? You've identified exactly those same strengths. But how do you put this into story while you are interacting with the interviewer? Is our next step. That is support your strengths with impactful stories. Now, here is where that framework which I was talking about comes into picture. Look at the resume. Your resume. Review your past roles and pick 5 to 6 moments that align with the strengths you want to highlight. If you're saying leadership, you need to have 5 to 6 moments or instances where you have shown that leadership qualities. You've demonstrated that leadership qualities, right? If you're, for example, applying for an operations manager role, think of a time that you have probably optimized that process. You've streamlined something in that process. You have saved time, you have reduced cost, you've brought in more efficiency. Maybe you've reduced the system downtime, right? This is when you identify your strength, you need to back it up with relevant instances where you've demonstrated those skill sets. For a customer service role, think of a time when you've probably turned that difficult customer situation, that difficult conversation that you have with a customer into a successful conversation, or you've probably retained that particular customer. Right? This is how you demonstrate your skill. If you show that you are good in customer service, then this is how you demonstrate. You need to have 5 to 6 instances each. Connect it with the job description, as I said. Again, one more example I would like to share here is, suppose if you're in a sales role, if they are looking for someone with strong negotiation skills, sales demands that, right? You need to highlight a deal where where you got a major client onboarded by using your strong negotiation strategies. Correct? The JD talks about negotiation strategies. You belong to sales, you have expertise in sales. This is how you'll identify. You have negotiated, but if you don't talk about those negotiation skills, how you got that client using your negotiation strategies, then what's the use? Keep it relevant. Choose the stories that match the skills or experience that is emphasized in the job posting, emphasized in the job description. If the job demands leadership, share a story where you led a team, where you led a challenging project, which involved a big team, cross-functional team you had to liaise with. It was a challenging project where you demonstrated your leadership skills. If it's a finance role, share a time when you created for instance, a budgeting strategy that helped the company save money. What we talk is surface level always, right? I have so many years of experience. I've worked in this, I've worked in this, I've done this, I've done this. But how do you relate it with those things that they are looking for is what matters. And this is where the storytelling comes into picture. And to demonstrate that, I will introduce a framework today, which is PARR framework. Now, most of you would know what PAR is, but you may not know what PARR stands for. So the first thing is P, which stands for problem. Okay. When you step into talking about that particular situation, that particular challenge, that particular instance or issue, you demonstrate it to the interviewer, right? You always use this framework where P stands for problem. You start by describing the challenge, the problem that you faced. Example, our sales was declining and we were struggling to retain our customers. We were facing constant bugs. And that delayed the product release. Problems. You're talking about the problem. You're talking about the challenge. Everyone with me until here? Okay. Now the next step is action. Explain the specific steps that you took. I insist, you took, not we took, to solve the problem. Okay? For example, I collaborated with the engineering team to revamp our testing processes, and we implemented an automated tool that reduced the error rate, say by 20%. Right? What did you do? You collaborated with the specific team and you revamped the entire thing and you implemented a certain process, a strategy. So you're talking about what action you took. I led a team that developed a customer retention program and worked with the sales and the marketing team to implement a well thought targeted strategy. So you talk about the specific actions here. Yes? The next step is you talk about the result. Now, when you talk about the problem, when you talk about what action you took, you need to also talk about how it helped solving that problem, right? What it resulted into. What was the outcome of that action? Highlight the outcome. And it has to be a measurable outcome. You have to quantify it in numbers. You have to really talk highly about what was the actual outcome. As a result, our customer retention improved by 20% and our sales grew by 15% in that particular quarter or in the subsequent quarter. Right? You're talking about what result, what was the outcome. By fixing the bugs and improving our testing process, we were able to launch the product 2 weeks ahead of the schedule. You're talking exactly the outcome, what the person on the other side would want to hear. If you talk about a problem, if you talk about what action you took, you need to talk about the results. And last, which I'm sure no one knows it, is reflection. Now, what do we mean by reflection here? PARR framework, problem, action, result, reflection. Reflect on what you learned and how that experience made you better. This is the hammer on that nail. Example, I learned that consistent engagement and, building those personalized strategies are key to long-term customer loyalty. This experience really taught me that optimizing our internal processes can have a huge impact on our product timelines. You're adding a line of what was your learning, what was your reflection by doing that entire thing. This completes your storyline. PARR. I learned the importance of listening to the customer feedback and adapting an approach that met their needs. Right? By doing something, you definitely learn something, right? When you highlight that, it talks in multifolds. So everyone clear with PARR framework? Yes or no? Superb. After we've identified our strength, after we support our strengths with an impactful story using the PARR framework, last is presenting your story with confidence. Now, if you really have backed your strength, your skills with such a beautiful storyline, definitely that confidence will automatically come. Yes or no? Right? Because you've prepared it, right? But you need to practice delivering it. It will not come all of a sudden when you sit in front of the interviewer. Right? When you write their storyline, you also have to practice it so that it comes out confidently, it comes out naturally. Right? And it has to be conversational. You need to know the key points of your story, but don't memorize it. When I'm saying practice it, do not memorize it. Word after word. No. You have to sound natural. Yeah. Use strong language. Now, what does that mean? Strong language. Avoid passive phrases like I helped, I was involved. No. Use active verbs, active phrases like I developed, I improved, I collaborated, I led. I was part of the team that worked on that product launch. No, I led the team that successfully launched the new product launch. Which increased our market share by so and so %. Active verb. I was involved in organizing the annual budget or, in preparing the annual budget. No, I was not involved. I organized and I coordinated. Strong words. I was responsible for managing the client relationships. I managed. You were not responsible. You managed it. So you have to demonstrate it in your words. Clear, everyone? Should we move ahead? Last but not the least, aim to tell each of your story in 2 to 3 minutes. Don't go overboard. Don't make it a boring, lengthy story. Keep it concise. It has to be long enough to provide that context to the interviewer, to give that context to that interviewer, and short enough to keep the interviewer engaged. You understanding it? Yeah? So concise, engaging, leaving the interviewer wanting to know more. So what are the key takeaways? Identify your strengths, right? Focus on the qualities that align with your job description. Use the PARR framework. Structure your stories to highlight how you solved problems and how you delivered results through it. Practice and be confident. You have to deliver your stories clearly, making sure that you are showcasing the value you bring to the role, value you bring to the table. One action step that I want to give you. Ready for the action? Yeah? Before your next interview, or rather, between today and tomorrow itself, choose 5 key moments from your career. When I say moments, your achievements, or have you demonstrated your strengths? 5 key moments, and apply it in the PARR framework. Practice telling those stories loud until you feel that it's natural and conversational. Yeah. And if you want to really make it, for the interview, then probably take any of the questions, common questions that is typically asked in the interview. Tell me about a time when you led a team through a challenging project, and structure your answer to those questions using this PARR framework. Can you describe a time when you had solved a complex problem under pressure? Can you give an example? Have you handled a difficult client? For example, you all have, right, those common interview questions. Pick up 2 to 3 questions and structure your answer using this framework. You all will do it? Yeah? So if you have done it, once you do it, I want you to put your video practicing delivering that answers in our Facebook group. How many of you all are in for that? Let me see. And by when will you all do it? Before we meet the next time. Yeah? In for it? Superb. And tomorrow we'll meet again at the same time, sharp 7:55 for another powerful session. Oh my God, this is much required. Office politics, right? Who doesn't want to know or understand or learn how to deal office politics? Everyone, I'm sure, right? So see you tomorrow sharp at 7:55. Don't be late. And if you are a first timer, please make sure that you're joining a WhatsApp community and our Facebook group, because that's where you'll get the session details. And Facebook community, ensure you're joining, because that's where you'll get all the session PDFs, documents, checklists. Set your reminder, as I said, for tomorrow, 7:55. And here is the link for the LinkedIn post for tomorrow's session. I want each one of you to reshare this within your circle on LinkedIn. Will you do that? Cool. So see you tomorrow sharp at 7:55. And share your learning, the activity that I told you. I will wait for it. Yes? Great. Good night. Take care.